Three very smart criminals robbed banks across North America and stole more than $15 million. They accomplished this with only stopwatches and a lot of guts. The crazy thing is that they did their heists in less than 90 seconds and didn't leave any evidence. How did they execute these swift heists without detection? And what did they do? Come with us to find out the story of the Stopwatch Gang, the bravest bank robbers you've never heard of. Please maintain your composure, as the extraordinary measures they employ to execute some of the most significant heists in history will astound you. In 90 seconds, you can get a lot done, but it doesn't seem likely that you could rob a bank. The well-known Stopwatch Gang is one exception, though. It's not a heist movie, even though the name sounds like one. It's true. There were three Canadians in the Stopwatch Gang: Patty Mitchell, Lionel Wright, and Stephen Reed. These guys in the 1970s and 1980s were known for committing perfectly timed bank robberies while keeping track of time with stopwatches. Patty Mitchell was a charismatic leader who knew how to make people like her. Lionel Wright was a very careful strategist and planner who paid attention to every little thing. Stephen Reed was the leader of the group. The X factor, if you will, made each heist the group carried out a little less predictable. They came together to form a group capable of robbing people in less than 2 minutes. Before anyone could figure out what was going on, they were in and out. Stephen Reed was one of 10 children who grew up in Massey, Ontario. For those who aren't familiar, it's a small town in the country where the Spanish and Aux Sable rivers meet. Like most people in Ontario, his father worked hard and indulged in alcohol. He tried his best to take care of his family, but money was tight. Reed first used drugs when he was 13 years old. By the time he was 17, he was using meth, had guns, and had robbed his first bank. Even though he was given a 10-year prison sentence, he managed to get away and met Patty Mitchell. Mitchell was one of 7 children born into a Catholic working-class family. He grew up in Ottawa on Preston Street, which is a rough area. As a child, he was always getting into small crimes and became known as a fighter. At age 14, he was found guilty of assault. After getting out of a juvenile detention center, he went back to doing illegal things. Wright, the third partner, lived with his mom. His favorite things to do were read about ancient history or watch TV at night. He didn't smoke or drink. Wright met Mitchell at one of Mitchell's delivery stops when Mitchell was a truck driver. Wright worked in a warehouse, which is where they first did illegal things. Wright stole things from the warehouse for a number of years, changed the paperwork, and then gave them to Mitchell to sell on the black market. The thieves kept going, and their haul went from boxes to trailers. The heists that the Stopwatch Gang did were not violent or aggressive. Instead, they were known for being polite and calm while pulling off heists. What was it that made it different? Their style is both precise and cool. Although it's hard to describe bank robbers as polite, that's exactly how they acted. They would often smile at employees when they came in. After everything was over, they would be gone for good. The brave escape of the Stopwatch Gang led them to sunny Florida, where they met up with Lionel Wright, their third partner in crime. Their need for adventure and money, however, was far from met. When Wright joined them again, they planned and carried out a string of carefully executed bank heists all across the country, from San Diego to Scottsdale, Arizona. The Bank of America heist in San Diego in September 1980 was their most profitable job. The huge haul cost an unbelievable $283,000, which is about $1 million in today's money. It showed how smart and brave they were, solidifying their reputation as criminal masterminds in the underworld. But it wasn't the police who brought them down. It was people in their own group. Here comes Donnie Hollingsworth, a halfback for the Ottawa Rough Riders who is now involved with crime. He gave the gang weapons and helped fence in stolen goods, like the gold from the airport heist. Hollingsworth, who was also known as Big John, was an important part of their operations. A witness saw him getting rid of a dead man's body while they were sampling their illegal goods. Hollingsworth asked Reading for help because his bail was $80,000, and he promised to pay back the debt plus interest in 60 days. However, Hollingsworth made a deal with the FBI to avoid going to jail. He gave up the Stopwatch Gang in exchange for being let off easy. There was a lot of betrayal at that level, and it shows how dangerous their criminal underworld can be. When the gang found out that Hollingsworth had betrayed them, it broke the trust that had held them together through good times and bad. As the FBI closed in, Reed Mitchell and Wright faced their toughest enemy yet, the law enforcement agency's weakening grip, which was helped by one of their own. Both in Canada and the US, word quickly got around about how great they were. After they got out of an Ottawa prison and ran to the US, they continued to pull off heists, which made them famous criminals. They came and went like ghosts, robbing and then going away before anyone could stop them. They always seemed to be one step ahead in this game of cat and mouse. The Stopwatch Gang's reputation lives on even though they are no longer criminals. They have been the subject of books, documentaries, and even some Hollywood scripts. People are interested in their story because it has drama, suspense, and turns that no one saw coming. It's a good reminder that the truth can be just as dangerous as lies. Gold was stolen by the Stopwatch Gang at the Ottawa airport in 1974. It is one of the most famous heists ever. This risky operation was a turning point for the group and set the stage for their well-known career as criminals. It was a classic caper that would make Hollywood directors jealous. It had the right amount of risky planning and flawless execution. In 1974, Ottawa's Uplands Airport, which is now called Macdonald-Cartier International Airport, was a busy hub. People were able to get from one place to another, and valuable goods like gold could come and go through the port. It was before high-tech security systems and advanced surveillance, so the Stopwatch Gang could easily target it. As part of a normal transfer, the airport was handling a shipment of gold when the Stopwatch Gang saw a chance. Happy Mitchell, Lionel Wright, and Stephen Reed carefully planned the heist, and each of them had a specific job to do. Getting the gold required accuracy and little risk. On the day of the heist, the Stopwatch Gang moved very precisely. They had already walked around the airport, looking at the procedures and finding holes in the security. They were known for carefully planning everything, and it paid off big time. The group, which was dressed in work clothes to blend in, walked up to the cargo area with confidence. That they felt like they belonged there helped them stay out of trouble. Something went off in the special cargo warehouse around midnight on April 14, 1974. It was a foam alarm. Someone on the other end asked the guard if my man was there yet. Soon after, there is a knock on the door, and Stephen Reed comes in pretending to work for Air Canada. Then he put the guard in handcuffs and began to question him about the key that opened the cases. After that didn't work, he broke the lock with some tools. He puts the stolen goods on a cart and walks over to Wright, who is waiting for him in a getaway car. The Stopwatch Gang's trick is now 20 minutes old. As soon as the Stopwatch Gang got the gold, they disappeared into the night, leaving a scene of shock and confusion behind them. Airport workers and police were confused about what happened and were trying to figure it out. Nobody got hurt or caused any extra trouble during the escape. It was a smooth disappearance. The gang was famous for being able to vanish without a trace. They were able to hide until the heat went away thanks to a network of safe houses and connections. This heist showed how good they were at both planning and carrying out plans, making them even more well-known as master criminals. The theft made headlines all over Canada and the world very quickly. The huge amount of gold that was stolen, along with the fact that the crime was so bold, made a big deal. People all over the world knew about the Stopwatch Gang, and their story captured them. There was a lot of skill, bravery, and glamour in the story. It was everything that someone would expect from a big theft. An important event in the history of heists is still the gold theft at Ottawa Airport in 1974. The gang's bad intentions were shown by their daring operation, which highlighted their unique approach. The 1980s were a wild time for the Stopwatch Gang. After their daring adventures in Canada, they set their sights on the sunny beaches of California. The busy coastline made for a great setting for their bank robberies. While the California coast is known for having a laid-back vibe, big banks also like to visit there. The gang played there to work on their criminal plans. During this time, the Stopwatch Gang robbed many banks along the coast of California, always with the same accuracy and timing that made them famous. They worked quickly and quietly, which was surprising for a group that was pulling off big heists. Their plan was easy to understand. Break in, take the money, and leave before anyone knows what hit them. The plan for each theft was the same. The gang would walk into the bank calmly, not wanting to cause trouble. They were different from other criminals of the time because they were always nice and never caused trouble. Like the other times they robbed in Canada, they moved quickly to make sure they were in and out in minutes. Out of all the bank robberies they did, one stood out. There was a theft at a Bank of America branch in San Diego on September 23, 1980. The Stopwatch Gang stole a record-setting $283,000 in this heist. The gang's careful planning and brave execution were shown by this daring operation. The gang walked into the bank that day with their usual calm attitude. They knew what they were doing and where to find the money. It was timed as they took as much cash as they could carry as they moved through the bank. Their smooth operation ended in minutes, leaving bank employees shocked and police with a huge mess to clean up. With the heist in San Diego, the Stopwatch Gang reached a turning point. It put them in the national spotlight, and news outlets and police departments were scrambling to catch them. The big amount of money they stole got them even more attention, which made their reputation even better. Even though there was more attention on the Stopwatch Gang, they were able to avoid being caught for a little while longer thanks to their careful planning and ability to disappear without a trace. Their fame in California only added to their mystery, making them even more famous in the criminal underworld. Finally, the Stops and Starts Gang's crime spree in California made history. The Bank of America heist in San Diego, which became one of their most famous crimes, showed how efficient and careful they were, which made them one of the most interesting criminal groups of the 20th century. In the early 1980s, the Stopwatch Gang killed a lot of people in California. This made them famous, but their luck was about to run out. The group's high-profile bank robberies caught the attention of law enforcement, especially the FBI, which led to a manhunt across the country. The heat had risen by October 1980, and the FBI was closing in. It was the start of the end for this notorious trio. They needed a safe place to rest after breaking all kinds of records when they robbed the Bank of America in San Diego. They looked for peace and quiet in Sedona, Arizona, which is famous for its beautiful red rock formations and peaceful atmosphere. It was a great place to get away from busy cities and nosy people. Stephen Reed and Lionel Wright set up a hideout in Oak Creek Canyon, close to Slide Rock State Park, in the form of forest houses. The dense forests and rough terrain gave the refugees a lot of places to hide. Meanwhile, Patty Mitchell, the gang's leader, rented a house 3 miles to the north. He stayed far enough away to be safe, while still being close enough to talk to his partners. The Stopwatch Gang couldn't get away from the FBI's relentless pursuit. Even though they planned everything out and were in a remote area. The FBI searched the gang's hideout near Slide Rock State Park on Halloween night, 1980. This was the right time to bring them in because the FBI knew exactly where they were. The arrest happened quickly and out of the blue. Wright and Reed were caught without any problems. The houses in the forest they used as a hideout were not as safe as they had hoped. When police suddenly broke up the peace and quiet in Sedona, it was the end of the road for the Stopwatch Gang, or at least 2/3 of them. Law enforcement caught Wright and Reed, but Patty Mitchell got away. Because his rental house was 3 miles north of where his partner left, he was able to avoid the FBI's first search. He would not be free for long, though. The FBI kept looking into Mitchell as part of their investigation. After 2 years, Patty Mitchell's good luck ran out. He was caught by the FBI, ending the story of the Stopwatch Gang. His capture ended a long and interesting period in the history of crime in both Canada and the United States. For years, a group of smart and brave bank robbers evaded police. When Wright, Reed, and then Mitchell were caught, the Stopwatch Gang's crime spree came to an end. The fact that they were caught in Sedona was a turning point that showed even the most careful criminals can't always avoid being caught. The gang, on the other hand, would live on in later stories, books, and documentaries, captivating people who loved hearing about daring heists and the inevitable chase that followed. After their daring actions, the members of the Stopwatch Gang split up and went to different prison yards and continents, where they each had to face their own punishment. Lionel Wright and Patty Mitchell were each given 17 years in prison for trafficking, and Mitchell got an extra 3 years for having the stolen gold. At the same time, Stephen Reed, who had moved to the U.S. after the daring airport heist, went back to Kingston and was arrested for having loose lips. Reed got an extra 10 years in prison for armed robbery on top of the time he already had for other crimes. Wright, on the other hand, did something different. He planned a daring escape from the Ottawa-Carleton Detention Center and ran south to the sunny beaches of Florida, which confused the Canadian government. Within Millhaven Institution, Reed and Mitchell were figuring out how to deal with the complicated rules of prison life. Reed took hairstyling classes because he saw them as a way to get along with the authorities. His risk paid off in 1978 when the government moved him to the medium-security Joyceville institution. This set the stage for his next move. It was Reed who planned the bravest escape yet. Mitchell followed Reed's lead and behaved perfectly, which got him moved to Joyceville 6 months later. Reed took advantage of a day trip that seemed normal to a hair salon in Kingston in August 1979. He only had one garden towel with him at the time. He disappeared through a bathroom window while he was eating at a restaurant and came back to the city. Reed helped Mitchell get out of the hospital 3 months later after he faked a heart attack. Reed and a partner broke into the scene with a revolver and quickly beat the guards. They were dressed as medical professionals. Before they ran away with Mitchell and Tao, they caused a lot of damage. Their daring escape showed how smart and brave Reed was, solidifying the Stopwatch Gang's reputation as legendary criminals in the annals of crime. The Stopwatch Gang's story didn't end when they were caught and put in jail. Their story is so famous that it has been turned into many TV shows and books about their daring heists and daring escapes. The gang's leader, Patty Mitchell, was at the center of this story. He even wrote his own autobiography while he was in jail. Over time, the Stopwatch Gang's history grew, solidifying their place in criminal history. A number of TV documentaries have followed the Stopwatch Gang's adventures, showing how accurately and daringly they committed their crimes. These documentaries looked into the gang's activities, such as heists, planning, and finally catching the members. The public was interested in the gang because of their unique style and long time of avoiding capture. Reading books was another important way to keep the gang's history alive. One of them is Patty Mitchell's autobiography, which he wrote while he was in prison and is about her life as a bank robber. This book gives a rare look into the mind of a career criminal by telling the story of Mitchell's life, how he became a criminal, and the events that led to his arrest. It's a raw and honest account that helps you understand the man behind the myth better. Patty Mitchell's life changed a lot after she was told he had lung cancer in 2006. This diagnosis was made while he was in prison, where he was getting a long sentence for being in the Stopwatch Gang. Although he had a criminal past, the man who used to lead a notorious gang felt weak when he found out he was sick. As Mitchell's health got worse, he got care at the Federal Medical Center in Butner, North Carolina. The once popular leader of the Stopwatch Gang spent his last days in a prison hospital, thinking about his life of high-stakes heists and the harsh realities of prison life. He died on January 14, 2007, when she was 64 years old. When he died, an era came to an end. The stories about him, however, live on,